What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this week's edition of Ask Swanky Cat, where I answer your questions. Over the weekend, I got a good comment on the T7 versus Thumpers video here that I wanted to answer in the form of a video. Dan Trimble asks, if I could only keep one 650, which one would it be? He wants to know between the XR and the DR, but I think if I'm going to make a video about this, I might as well include the other 650-ish class bikes that I've tested in the past. So that would be the Gen 2, the Gen 3 KLR. I'll kind of roll those into one, and then also the 701 that I currently own. We'll start off with the KLR 650, and I will say that that is definitely not a bike that I think is the right bike for me, or a bike that I would keep. I know a lot of you KLR lovers out there say that you'll always have a KLR 650 in the garage. I totally understand that. I definitely get it. In my position, though, my bikes are more like assets than they are bikes to ride or lend out or whatever. I mean, they're not just a motorcycle that's in my garage for me to go play around with anymore. They're business assets. So in that sense, I mean, I'm not going to keep it for that reason. If I'm done making videos on it, it doesn't have a place or a stall in my garage. Beyond that, I think the KLR 650, honestly, the further away that I get from my ownership of those bikes, the more I realize that they really just weren't the right bikes for what I was trying to do with them. If you're somebody that's looking to get into the adventure bike world on a dual sport budget, there is no better option out there than the KLR 650, at least not yet. Maybe someday there will be, but it's pretty hard to beat the range, the wind protection, and after you do a few mods, the bulletproof, I hate that word, reliability of the KLR. I think it's a great bike. I definitely don't regret any of the miles that I put on either of mine. And if you're not somebody that's going to run ridiculously nasty trails or single track like I do, or if you are and you're, well, maybe 6 inches taller than me and built a bit better, I think the KLR 650 could be a great option. The only issue beyond that I have with it really is the power to weight ratio. And if you're somebody that really just wants to get on a bike and cruise and enjoy it and putt around a bit off-road or even do fast-moving ATV trails, I still think it's a great option. But if you're somebody that is looking for something that's a little bit more wheeliable and that is just a little bit lighter like me, it's just not the best option out there. I think there are other ones, which is exactly why I decided to do the build series that I am on the much lighter XR and the DR. Both are almost 100 pounds lighter than the KLR, yet they have the same horsepower. Of course, they don't have the long range or the wind protection that the KLR does for the road, but with a few mods, I think they will be much better bikes for me. Before we get to the XR and the DR, though, I think the 701, as you guys have noticed, have sort of ramped up production on those type of videos. And to be honest, as much as I wanted to see if those videos could do well, I'm just not that excited about the 701. It's too much of a bike for my personal preference. I've gotten a lot better at riding in the last 10 years, especially off-road, but it's still way above my level, and it's not something I need. It's also not something that seems to have the same soul as the KLR, the XR, and the DR. It just seems more of, I don't know, I guess like I've always said, a bit of a weapon, a cold, hard weapon, rather than sort of a warm, thumpy machine like the DR, XR, and KLR. So that bike, I think, is an awesome option for somebody that's looking for the craziest dual sport that you can buy. I mean, it's a great machine. I don't take back any of the nice things that I've ever said about it. I think it's a great bike, as long as you're not concerned about the ridiculous price tag, which is literally just about double any of the other 650s that we're talking about here today. And if you don't mind the possible reliability issues that come along with a KTM or Husqvarna, they're really geared more towards performance and sort of the first owner rather than the fourth, fifth, or sixth owner like the Japanese bikes are. So, bit of a spoiler, I will be selling the 701. I've got a few things that I need to do with it yet before I get rid of it, but that just is not really the bike for me. It's been fun. I'm glad that I had the ability to test it. It's kind of a good benchmark to compare other bikes to in the future. So definitely glad that I did that. Apologize to all you guys that are interested in the 701 and are going to be sad to see it go. But this is not a 701 channel. This is a dual sport motorcycle channel. So I'm going to rotate through bikes. It's just got to happen. So then that just leaves us with the XR and the DR. So which one of those would I keep? Right now, I have to say the XR just sort of has me more interested. I think partially it's the fact that the DR has some blown fork seals and I can't really ride it or do a whole lot with it. But to be honest, right now, in the form that both of them are, which is pretty close to stock gearing, I've got the aftermarket bars on the XR, which might help a little bit. But even when they were both completely brand new to me, the XR, it just feels like a motocross bike. And I've heard that from some of you guys as well, that it really just gives that aura. And it is, I think, partially the seat height, which I will actually be dropping in the next couple days here. But it's also just, I don't know, the attitude in the engine and maybe just the general ergonomics of it. It's just a really interesting and fun bike to ride. And I think once I get a 14-tooth sprocket on the DR650, maybe do a few of the free carb mods, and of course swap out the bars and fix the fork seals, and especially I think after some suspension work, honestly, I think the DR650 is probably the bike that makes the most sense for my type of riding. I think the XR is definitely good. I just kind of like the extra promise of reliability with the DR, just because it's got the oil cooler, which I know you could add to the XR, but it's got a little bit bigger tank stock, and it just seems like a bike that's maybe meant to go a little bit further without any sort of top end work or with a lot of maintenance. The intervals for checking valves are a little bit longer, not a whole lot, but it just seems like a bike that's a little bit better set up for the sort of off-road oriented adventure rides that I like to do. So I guess what I'm saying is, at the moment, as they are, the XR is the bike that I would want to jump on and take for a ride if I had to pick one. If I actually had to sell one now, I'm not really sure what I would do, to be honest. I guess maybe I would keep the DR. I don't know. I think long-term the DR, like I said, will make more sense for me. But if I did actually have to get rid of one right now, boy, I don't know. I think I'm just too excited to see what the XR will feel like with a bit of wind protection, a little bit of auxiliary fuel, and once I lower it. I think I'm just too pumped about that right now, and I'm just not that excited about the DR just because it needs some work, and it just really isn't as intense feeling as the XR. But like I said, I think long term, as far as an actual adventure build, I think the DR makes more sense for its reliability, but also for its ability to accept a full rally fairing that you can attach to the steering neck. And I will be kind of hitting on that in a video that I'll be putting out later this week on the XR, because the XR does not have that ability. So there's definitely some things that I like more about the DR. There's definitely some things that I like more about the XR. But I think if I did have to pick one right now today to get on a ride, or I guess to keep, I think it would be the XR. But after some mods, I have a pretty good feeling that that will change. So stick around for that. We will be getting on the builds soon, I promise. There's just a lot of other videos that I need to kind of get out of the way or need to put out in a certain order. So I promise the builds will come, the rides will come. We will get out and test these bikes. But for now, I'm going to head down to the garage and get back to work on it. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the questions. If you guys have a question that you think would be good for this segment, please feel free to leave it down in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Stay swanky. Get out. Enjoy this beautiful world God created for us any chance you get.